Welcome to Home Hive. I'm Kristen with Kristen Krebs Interiors, and I'm going to be talking to Henish today. He is an investor, a contractor, and a broker. So let's go check out the show. Welcome to Home Hive. I am Kristen with Kristen Krebs Interiors, and I am here with Henish Pulickal. You are an investor, a broker, and a contractor.
But the one thing I'm not is a Polak. Last name is Pulickal.
Pulickal.
You knew that.
Oh,
It's okay.
I'm sorry. Did I totally
It's all
butcher
good.
that?
Yeah, it's all good. But you got the other things right. I'm a broker, contractor, and investor.
All right. So anyway, yeah, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
I stay busy with work. It's kind of the businesses have all been symbiotic. They help each other, right? I've had my real estate license to help me become an investor. And then as an investor, I found that we were starting to do good construction because I have a great team that puts the houses together really well. And that turned into getting our own GC license, general contractor license with the Contractor State Licensing Board. And now we're a fully licensed general contracting firm with about 17, 18 people that work for me directly on payroll,
Awesome.
fixing up 5 to 6 houses per month.
Wow.
And not just for myself, for a lot of retail clients or interior designers or architects that work with us as well.
Yeah.
So the businesses have all come together to help each other, right? Because now I'm buying houses, I'm still helping people sell and buy houses as a broker. I have a real estate team, and that's kind of what it's been. I'm trying to focus in those 3 areas now.
Awesome. Well, how'd you end up getting into real estate?
My first job out of college was in mortgages back in 2002. So I learned underwriting, I did sales, and then I got into management positions where I was managing a servicing department. And then in 2007, I got the opportunity to run a foreclosed homes department. So I was here in Rancho Bernardo in charge of 2,000 properties nationwide that were getting foreclosed, new ones coming in, selling them a bunch of per month. And that taught me a lot about real estate as well, because I knew the mortgage side, I knew the collateral and how to do income and credit and appraisals. Now I was learning how to sell these houses, especially the really ugly ones. And so during that time I got my license and took it from there to be on the outside and not on a salaried corporate position.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So then it just sparked everything from there.
Yeah, and then my thinking is always to try to be a little bit more innovative. I want to know what other people are doing, but then I want to change it so I can improve it or make it a little bit better. So that's always my goal is like, all right, what's everyone else doing and how do I do it a little bit better?
Yeah.
Because I could just do what everyone else is doing, it doesn't really set me apart, and it's not very much me. I like to be a little bit different, and in some cases a lot different.
Yeah.
And so that's what kind of sets us apart is that I'm trying to do things better, make it a better experience for clients, make it a better overall process.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
So even with the REO department, that's kind of how I put myself on the map, is that we took an entire department back in 2007 that was files getting inter-officed between different people for approvals, for price reductions, and it would take months for every price reduction to take it paperless, which at the time was kind of forward thinking, it's a dozen years ago now. But that made it so I was getting price reductions in 2 hours instead of 2 months.
Wow.
So that kind of thinking just helped, it reinforced that I should keep doing business like that. Like, what's happening and how do I change it to get better? Because I know whatever I did yesterday might not be effective for me tomorrow to earn a buck.
Yeah, you definitely are probably the most innovative thinker I know.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that. I'm just trying to, and I'm humble enough to understand that someone's got a better idea, and I'm always saying, okay, great, that's great, let's do that, or let's make it a little bit better than that.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. No, I think everybody needs to listen to you or at least have a conversation with you, because it is mind-blowing the kinds of things that you come up with that I never even would have thought of.
Oh yeah, thank you, I appreciate that. No, I mean, and I vibe off of other people because I can take what someone says, I'm like, that's great, what if you just do this a little bit differently,
Right.
and kind of tweak it. So I do like to meet with people and kind of brainstorm, because it's interesting what you can get with really good synergy.
Yeah.
Because I like to try to extract good ideas out of people and then take it into how do we use that.
Yeah, yeah. You are an amazing coach. I don't even know if you know that, like, you coach people. I've seen you with your employees too. You coach them through so many different aspects.
It's interesting. Just yesterday I was fighting with an appraiser over really bad comps. I have a 3-bedroom I'm selling, and they use 2-bedroom comps and try to adjust it. And I was like, there were plenty of 3-bedroom comps available. Why would you do that? And so I'm going to use that as a training point for my team next week and say, let's review this appraisal and how bad it is.
Yeah.
But so every week I'm finding things that I could teach on that's useful. So trying to get better at it, but I also know I'm not the greatest real estate leader, so I've hired someone that's starting next week to join my team to help manage the realtors that I have to really be effective, because I've never been the let's go out and do open houses and show houses and call listings and do FSBOs and expires. And I think that's a great business. I just don't have a lot of experience in it, but I know my weaknesses, and that's one of them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, speaking of being an educator and having a contractor's license, can you tell us a little bit more about how somebody can select the right contractor?
Yeah, great question. I mean, it's complicated because when you're a contractor, a lot of people think just building the house is everything, and or getting the job done is everything, and they forget that managing your staff and managing their schedule and their work and keeping timelines is super important. And you might not think about that when you're saying, well, I got to get this room done, or I need to build this structure, or whatever it is, and you don't know how to schedule properly. So we're using software like Microsoft Project that can say, X trade is starting this day and it's going to take 5 days, and the next trade starts on day 6 and it'll take this days. And having that schedule, because we know how long each thing takes, allows us to schedule out 3 months in advance. So that's really important for clients that value you being in time, right? We always hear those nightmare stories like, this project will take 6 weeks. Meanwhile, it'll take you 16, right? And then that's like you just expect it, and that's what all your neighbors and friends will tell you when dealing with a contractor. So we're trying to change that stereotype that you can be on time and on budget if you're not just a contractor, but also a business person. And then also with the budget too. If you do the estimate properly at the beginning, and it takes 2 to 3 hours to do a proper estimate, you can get it pretty right where you don't have to surprise a client with a change order, like, oops, we missed this. Like, you won't get that from us. Like, we won't miss it. Like, but if you're asking us to change something mid-construction, that's a change order. But it won't be because, oh, we counted the number of windows wrong. You know, it won't be that. And so doing your due diligence up front as a contractor allows us to get our projects done on time, on budget, and at really good quality. And so that's why we're finding ourselves set apart from other contractors, because some people aren't as good at those two aspects, the on time and on budget part. They're good at getting a nice quality product, but it might take you double or triple as much time and a lot more money. In terms of selecting a contractor, you got to check their license, you got to check their references, and why don't you go check out some of their projects they've got going, right? I mean, with us, I've got 5 or 6 houses at any given time. Go check them out. You know, whether it's my own investment property or a client remodel or a new ADU we're building, you can go check it out and see what's happening. And I've had clients saying, okay, let's go see your job site. And because they're like, well, we want to do some of the work ourselves. And I had a client tell me that. And I was like, he had a job. He probably had a good paying job. And he got there and he's like, man, these guys are working fast. I was like, well, yeah, that's their full-time job. They do this all day. He's like, probably working twice as fast as I could do it. And I was like, and they're probably getting paid about half as much as you do. So does it make sense for you to work a few extra hours and just pay my guys to do it twice as fast as you would? Because that's a 4x multiplication on your productivity. He's like, yeah, you're right. Let me just work a couple extra hours and pay your guys to do it. Because we're doing this every day.
I run into that all the time. You're like, well, yes, you could spend 40 hours picking out a tile for your bathroom, but I could do it in 2.
That's the key point of having a designer, is that you make it so much more efficient, right? And that's what I've told people. I was like, use the designer. They'll help you get your materials and at the right price, at the right places that are in stock, that won't take 10 weeks for delivery, because that'll push your project back. And so, even planning that is important, right? Pick your finishes before we start, so we know when our materials arrive, because if the materials arrive a week or 2 late, that pushes my whole project back.
So, and then you've got other projects lined up after that, so, pushes
it's a chain reaction. It's brutal, right?
Oh, I know that feeling.
So I mean, that's basically how I'd say to pick a contractor. Check licenses, check references, check the job site. And then you got to get along with them, right? You're basically going to have a relationship with this person for the next 4 to 8 weeks or however long your project's going to take. So you got to be able to communicate with them well, trust that they're doing the right thing for you, they got your back, and hopefully you enjoy working with them, because it should be fun and not a super stressful project. And it usually is, and so we're trying to change that stereotype too. I do know a lot of contractors sometimes will underbid a project just so they can get the project, and then of course then you go over budget, and then the client's not happy, and then you're over the time limit because you underbid it, and so then the client just ends up unhappy in the end, and then they have that bad taste in their mouth with the next contractor. And I like that you're really trying to set yourself apart from that to really correct that. Because and I have to tell clients that, like, hey, this is the price. That means that's the price. It's not going to be 50% higher later. This is it. And our reviews and our testimonials can back that up.
So you mentioned ADUs. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, ADUs are a hot topic in San Diego, and when you see the numbers relative to other coastal cities like LA or San Francisco, like we've gotten very few of these sent through, and I don't know what it is in general about San Diego. Like, do we just don't care about getting an extra $600 to $1,000 a month,
Right.
or you don't want to give up that backyard space, or you don't want that garage conversion?
Yeah.
But people are starting to get it, and the more we're educating people, and the more we're doing seminars and series like this that teach people that, hey, just get an assessment and figure it out, because that's an extra $600 to $1,000 a month in your pocket every month,
Yeah.
net of your building costs. And so once you can really explain the numbers, there's no better investment that I can think of that's legal in San Diego.
Right.
And so like you put in your money and you get a huge return, more so than if you were buying real estate and apartment complexes in Arizona, because you can't buy them here for more than a 4 cap.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
cap rate. And then when we've done the numbers, building an ADU can get you a 10 to 12 cap rate. So almost triple
Yeah.
any other good investment that you can
Yeah.
find in real estate. So put one of these on your back property, whether you're using it for your family or for yourself or to rent out to someone else. It's a great return on investment, and you get it back on your equity, and it's cheaper to build. And I think people get scared of the cost, but when you figure out the overall picture, there's still no better investment, and you
Yeah.
can get it financed.
Yeah.
You can get it financed to build.
Yeah.
So we're seeing a lot of these come through more, and it's just getting people comfortable with the process, understanding that plans take 2 months to do, permits take 2 or 3 months to do, and the construction takes 4 to 6 months to do.
Yeah.
So once you understand that, hey, once you've thought about it, it's still going to take a year to build it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then once you're over that, you got to start now, because it's every month that you wait is another $1,000 you don't have in your pocket.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. May as well. I think you had mentioned that once. I think there was someone you were talking with that said, they can't afford not to start now.
Yeah, yeah, because they want an extra $1,000 on month 13 from now.
Right. Yeah.
You
yeah.
know, and
it
if you
adds
keep
up.
delaying, it's like that's an extra that much less money you have 13 months from now.
Yeah. Yeah. So is there any advice you can give people, especially around ADUs or construction?
An agent called me yesterday and said, hey, I've got a client that wants to buy this house, and it's a huge lot, and they want to build an ADU. Great. Can you send me your cheat sheet? No, it doesn't exist. So
Right.
because this is so new, and almost every week new laws are passing, in every city and municipality has their own overlaying rules. It really depends. And
Yeah.
so it's hard to say, tell me the cheat sheet. And well, the cheat sheet is like, yeah, it costs a bit of money to build this and some time to plan it out.
Right.
There are some resources that can help, but it still takes even the most experienced ADU architects and draftsmen a couple hours to figure out what you can do, right?
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of work for someone that's versed in the city code and knows what they're doing to be able to give you a proper feedback on what you can build. So if you're inquiring into it, it's worth talking to someone that knows what they're doing and finding out how much can you build, what are your setbacks, where does it need to be, what are the fees, because it varies so much and it's
Yeah.
changing every week.
Yeah.
So the only advice is you can't just sit there and hope the information is going to come to you. You gotta have to reach out and talk to someone that knows what they're doing and spend some time to figure out exactly what you can do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because once you know what you can do, then you can start designing your plans and putting some hard money down, because that costs time and money to do that. But you can find out what you want to do for cheap or free.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think especially when it comes to cost, I think a lot of people have a certain dollar amount in mind.
Yeah.
And oftentimes it is very small compared to what the actual costs end up being. We're looking, $250, $300 a square foot, give or take, for an ADU. And, it can obviously go much higher than that depending on your material selections and everything. But I think a lot of people often maybe see their costs as being a lot lower. Like I've heard 15,000 being passed around. I'm like, that's not even close. You don't even get permits
someone
for
will say that, and I'm like, okay, great. Well, do you want a kitchen in your ADU?
Right?
How much do appliances cost?
Yeah, and they vary.
Right. So even if you put in a cheap appliance set, that's it's a few $1,000s. So I was like,
Right,
and then what's that leave for anything else? Like,
Yeah.
and so once I talk actual numbers, I'm like, well, you want a foundation, right? Or do you want the sitting on the dirt? Because the
Right,
foundation is
yeah.
$15,000. Or do you want a roof? Well, a roof is $10,000.
Yeah.
Do you want an HVAC system? That's $8,000.
Yeah. Yeah. See, you're already blowing that 15,000.
Yeah, that's already a 50,000 just that stuff. So
Yeah.
did you want an inside of the house? 'Cause, and so when people start understanding that, they're like, okay, now I'm starting to get it. So
Right.
it's not cheap, but then when you think about, and you mentioned 250 to 300, and that's about right for most ADUs for all in. And when you think about how much it costs to buy real estate in San Diego, even if it was just a condo, you don't even have land. Like the cheapest real estate in San Diego is selling for $500 a foot.
Yeah.
So you can't buy it any cheaper.
Yeah.
So if you can build it at a 50% discount, I don't know, that seems like a good value to me, and I'm a pretty frugal guy.
Right. Yeah. And you get a 12 cap return on these things?
You get a 12 cap on. I mean, you run the numbers with your own accountants or
Sure.
financial advisors, but
yes, we are not a financial advisor.
It's hard pressed to run those numbers any way that don't make really compelling sense.
Yeah.
For you to do this.
Yeah.
So the only things I can think of that you wouldn't want this for is that you can't give up that airspace above your garage.
Sure.
You can't give up your garage. You can't give up part of your backyard, or you just don't like money.
Right.
So unless it's one of those three
and you're
things.
helping the housing crisis, which is nice.
No, and that's why it's happening is that,
Yeah.
that we need to be building these units to
Yeah.
house people. And
Yeah.
as you can see from our pricing and low vacancy and high rent rates, that we need more units. This is a simple Econ 101 supply and demand curve.
Yeah. Yeah. The demand is definitely there.
Demand is there and the supply is not.
Yeah.
And that's
yeah.
the issue, right? And so
Yeah.
that's why you're hearing the news stories of 200 square foot sheds renting for $1,000.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everyone's seen that. So.
Yeah, right.
But it just points out how crazy it is around here.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. So yeah. All right. Well, anything else you want to talk about?
What else we got going on? So I'm also an investor buyer. I've also just bought like several $1 million in houses. I think the market's still strong. I think that if you have a nice quality house and it still sells. So I'm an investor buyer. And some people will come to me and say, "Oh, I'm looking forward to. I want to be an investor one day."
One day.
Yeah, and I'm like, "Well, what are you waiting for?" Because
Yeah.
it's not a one-man job. It takes a whole team of people
Very
to
true.
do it. And so what I advise those people, I was like, "Look, if you know me, you can basically become an investor, right?" And so
Yeah, yeah.
the key thing with being an investor is getting the leads on a good property to buy,
Yeah.
and then being able to execute on that. So if someone is interested in being an investor and they get a lead, then I can help them execute everything else in terms of getting it paid for, building it out, or remodeling it, and then selling it, because I can do all those things.
Yeah.
What I'm always looking for is partnering with more people that have the leads, and so
Yeah.
working direct to seller or a good source is useful. Finding good investor deals on the MLS is a lot harder.
Definitely.
So I think that's a nice little bit of advice I'd like to pitch out there, is that if you want to be an investor, don't wait. If you know someone or you'd like to meet someone like me, then just do it, and then you can basically become an investor.
Yeah. Yeah. All it takes is communication. Just, hey, I'm interested.
Right. It's a partnership, and you
Yeah.
kind of have to have synergy with people, because this
Definitely.
isn't a one-man show. I don't, I just keep swapping hats between things and doing everything myself. I have
Yeah.
a great team that I work with that I can rely on to help execute different parts of this.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You're definitely a one-man stop.
One man stop,
You've
but
got
then you might get passed off to one of my people
Sure.
to help
I
execute.
mean, you've got team, right?
Yeah, but of course, at the end of the day, the buck stops with me. So if anything doesn't go perfect, I'm the one that gets the call, and I sort that out. And so I'm happy to be that person. I'm very accountable for my team's activities.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. Yes. Everybody should know Henish if you don't already.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, thanks for having me on. This was awesome. I don't know, if there's anything else you need to chat about.
No, I think we kind of covered.
We got everything covered.
Yeah,
I try to
we
be
did.
concise.
Right?
Yeah.
No, it was great. So yes, thank you so much for coming
Awesome.
on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Isn't Henish amazing? I really enjoyed being able to chat with him a little bit more about what he does and how he's helping the community and the housing crisis with these ADUs that he's building. So I just wanted to get a quick little shout out to the ADU Coalition. They are an amazing organization. If you have any interest in creating an ADU in your own property, definitely go check them out. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.